Now from Hollywood, California, the horror capital of the world, the Boulet Brothers, creatures of the night.
The Winchester Mystery House is a sprawling Victorian mansion in San Jose, California, built and continuously expanded by Sarah Winchester, the widow of firearms tycoon William Winchester. According to popular legend, after the deaths of her infant daughter and later her husband, Sarah was told by a spiritual medium that she must build a home for the spirits of those killed by the Winchester rifle, and that construction must never stop.
Whether motivated by grief, spiritualism, architectural fascination, or just personal eccentricity, Sarah bought a Victorian farmhouse and began building onto it, and the result was a labyrinthian estate filled with staircases to nowhere, doors that opened into walls, and oddly scaled rooms, some of them upside down. A structure that felt less like a residence and more like a psychological landscape made physical.
Now, one of our most asked type of questions here on the podcast is about our supernatural experiences and beliefs. So last week, we journeyed to the Winchester Mystery House and spent a terrifying evening in what is said to be one of the country's most haunted locations. And we're going to talk about our experience right now.
Okay, so we decided to make a meal of this road trip. We wanted to go north and enjoy some of our downtime, and what better way to spend time together than exploring what California has to offer as far as the supernatural. Victorian history, we actually didn't stop there. There was quite a lot to this trip, but we're going to focus on our very first stop. We bolted all the way up the state to San Jose, a place that we've never really been before. Surprisingly, because we used to terrorize San Francisco on the regular, and they're so close to each other. But we decided to drive all the way there and just go in and explore the Mystery House.
Right. So we did there's a tour that they offer there called like the flashlight tour. And the reason we wanted to do that was because, first of all, it's at night. So if you're going to go look for supernatural happenings, I think nighttime is obviously better than daytime. But we also just wanted to get our own impression because, like I said, people ask us, what are your experiences or, these things. So we didn't want a guide talking to us the whole time. We didn't want someone walking us through the house. We wanted to just be let free in there at night to roam and feel the house.
I just want to say this, like a good guide is so rare. Like we actually took a haunted New Orleans ghost trip with a great guide, and it really made the experience so much better. However, that is so rare. Drac and I would much rather be on our own, flashlight in hand, and just be let loose in the house.
Yeah, I think we both are fans of history and we like to do our own research. Sometimes I find some of the guides to be too theatrical. It's annoying. You go to like a touristy area, like you never do that. Never take one of those kind of tours because they're awful and clownish, but
so colorful.
Oh yeah, very. Anyway, so we went and did the flashlight tour, and so let's talk about it. So we actually live in a historic Victorian house, and our house was built in a similar time period. It's built in 1893. So we have kind of a unique understanding of how these types of houses work and what it's like to live in them and what can be mistaken for hauntings and things like that.
Yeah. What was striking to me on this experience overall, and there was a lot, the house had a lot to offer. All of the details in the metalwork and the hinges and the knobs and the way that a Victorian house is constructed was so mirrored in our house. I don't know. I guess I just didn't expect that. So every turn was like this delightful little giggle. I'm like, oh, look at the door clasp. It was all very similar to us.
There were a lot of similarities. The hardware in particular, you're right. And not all of it was the same, but there were a lot of similar pieces that I see here. So there must have been like, hey, if you have a Victorian house, here's our Sears catalog back in the day, order from this.
Yeah. And I started to think about that. I'm like, well, how many manufacturers of these kind of specialty pieces back then would there have been on the West Coast? Probably very few.
Yeah.
Maybe even just one, because they were so similar.
I don't know how many of them actually were in the United States or how many of them were getting shipped over from different countries, which I think may be the case.
Yeah.
Okay, the tour, basically, they give you a flashlight, you get to walk through by yourself, so that's fabulous because you can take as little or as much time as you want. And we really took a lot of time to look through every area, every room. Mm-hmm. they don't really mess with you at all as long as you don't open a door you're not supposed to. And sometimes you can even do that and get away with it, tee-hee, here and there.
By mistake or not.
And I'm not encouraging you to do that. I don't want them to listen to this and say, you guys told them to open all the doors in the house.
That's one thing that I'd say wasn't my favorite, was that, yes, you could be let loose in the house, and we really were free to roam forward and backward, and it was only by flashlight. Which, just think about that for a minute, because I've actually told some people who might be a little more fearful of that kind of stuff, and they were gagged. They were like, "Are you hard pass? Absolutely not." Like they wouldn't have went even in the daytime, let alone at night in the dark with a flashlight only. But they did have a lot of rooms sort of roped off. Like, I think we just got like basically the fancy rooms, the big rooms.
Yeah,
the
you did go through but you also went through the basements. There was like a couple of levels of that. You went through the parts that were closed off after the
1906 earthquake.
Yeah, so there was a whole section of the house that was closed off. I'm actually kind of surprised they let you walk through that, because it was so deteriorated and damaged, and they just closed it off after that and left it there.
And what we learned from the guides, who I quickly learned, not guides, they were kind of like, you go through a haunt and there's people in all black, like hiding in the corner. They had those like all over the house, because I think that they were kind of like part security, part like, let me fill in your questions. Because when I was talking with you about the deterioration of the room, and was this like not finished, or did she intend it to be this way? One of the little dark creatures in the corner came out and said, actually, this was damage from the 1906 earthquake, and we wanted to preserve how damaged the house was. So this is an example of the type of destruction that the whole house experienced back 100 years ago.
They were basically like, if you're lost in a video game and you see someone on the street and you go up and they have like a word bubble over them, that's what they were.
It was like, have you gone to the inn yet? Have you gone to the inn yet? Yeah, just like that.
So we went through the deteriorated parts of what was left over from the earthquake. We went through the basement. We went through the ballrooms, the dining rooms, most of the halls, a couple of bedrooms. There was a sewing room, different things like that.
Yeah.
Really interesting. You got to go on a few of the floors. I do think maybe, even though we saw her bedroom, I think there was probably more bedrooms there. But the truth of the matter is, she's the only person that lived there. So she had all these rooms, and nobody else lived there but her. And we also got to go through the seance room.
Yes.
So she had this blue room, it was called the blue room, and this is where she supposedly had nightly seances.
Right. To call to the spirits to guide her in which way and how she would expand the house. Because this is the way that she was staving off the Winchester curse.
I can't even imagine having to work with and build for someone that is that rich and that sort of unmoored. And to imagine that they then told me they were being instructed by ghosts, I would jump out the window. I'd be like, I will not work with you.
It's so California, though.
It's so
like
California.
I would say it's LA, but this isn't. This is outside of San Francisco. But it is so California. It is that hocus pocus, mumbo jumbo bullshit that rich people get into when they have too much time and too much money.
There's something mixed with a cult. Somehow it has something to do with yoga. There's also a spirit involved. There's astrology. It's all mixed into some big, I got rich instead of an education, and now here I am trying to figure out my life, and this is how I'm going to do it.
Exactly. It's very crystals in the foundation, yoga mat, lemon water, psychic to the stars.
And I'm like this. I want to do this. Give me $100,000 and I'll tell you what's wrong with you. And I'll be like, okay, first of all, drink here. I made this water with lemon and cayenne pepper. So drink this for 10 days, just because it seems believable. Eat a clove of garlic, and basically you're bipolar. So go get therapy and get on medication. You'll be fine. That's it.
Well, there's the bipolarity. There's that.
So first of all, you're bipolar.
Yeah.
And the thing about the bipolar thing is once you fix it. So let's start with, did you feel anything? So we're approaching, it was pretty ominous. The building outside at night looks pretty intimidating, right?
Absolutely. But I do think that the most surprising piece was, I'm thinking, 5 or 6 hour road trip north. We're going to be by the shore. It's going to be kind of out in the woods, like a rural farmhouse turned into Victorian mystery house. We're going to be out in the middle of nowhere. This thing is dead slap in the middle of San Jose downtown. It is like a block from like the city center.
Yeah.
Which was really surprising.
Very surprising.
And in some ways I was like, oh, I don't like that. But then it took on like a different air because this estate has been marked out for 100 and something years, and the whole city and the culture has changed around it, but there it remains like frozen. And there's something kind of eerie and cool about that.
There is, with the property and the original fence going around the whole thing, which is unusual because, as we know, being familiar with a lot of there's not a lot of the historical Victorian houses in California, for example, a lot of times they originally had a lot of property around them. And then over time, they chip off an acre, chip off a half acre, chip off another lot. And then you'll see a gigantic house that's basically has a 5-foot circle of grass around it, and it towers into the air. And then there's like a hovel right next to it.
Yeah.
And that was, there's a couple of houses here that we've talked about that are like that the city grows up around them. That didn't happen in this instance. It's very much still has a huge footprint in the city center, but you're right. There's skyscrapers across the street. Very odd.
It was really odd. Now, let's talk about the mystique of the house, though, because when you looked at it, and especially when you got close to it, it was magical. I mean, it is majestic and a great example of architecture of the period, but it's also sprawling. Like, it is gigantic. So as you walk around it, definitely as you walk through it, you kind of lose yourself. There's so many curves and random balconies and main entrances and side entrances. It's kind of overwhelming.
It's very overwhelming. And when I think about the house, because originally she bought this house, she didn't build it from the ground up. She bought it, and it was an 8-room farmhouse, supposedly. That's what they say.
Mm-hmm.
I am having a hard time picturing where those 8 rooms were, and I wish I had asked, because what part of that house did it start with?
That would have been a great question.
Because there's no way it started with the front, because the front is a very Queen Anne Victorian vibe with a turret and everything. So I'm like, there's no way this was the original front of this farmhouse.
Really good question. And as we know, even a house that might face the street back in 1893 or 1910 or whatever, the house can change its orientation. The side door becomes the front door, or the back door becomes the front of the house. And that was very, very common.
Yeah. And I mean, in terms of this being a farmhouse, I'm sure they changed the entrance, but the entrance that they settled on before she died has been the same main entrance since then.
And food for thought, you actually were not allowed to go through that. You could not enter the main entrance of the house because there was a significant mosaic in the floor that they wouldn't allow people to walk over. So you had to come through another entrance, and you could approach the front door, but you couldn't walk through the front door.
I feel like we did something wrong because we were basically by ourselves in the front with no workers or anybody around, like going through the gardens, and we walked right up to the front door. And then, I mean, I think I scared someone, which was amazing, because I was like, what? I walked up to the door and tried to open it, and there was some person with a flashlight that shined their light out at me and like jumped, which I loved. I was like, I want to hang out here and just scare people all night. But anyways, so that was the physical experience we had. But next, we need to get into the metaphysical experience that we had. So let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll get right into the hauntings of the Winchester Mystery House. All right, we've returned, and now it's time to open the basement door of the Winchester Mystery House. So, let me start by asking you, when you were approaching or when you were walking through the house, and this could be the beginning, the middle, the end, certain rooms, did you pick up on any supernatural energy?
I'm going to say this. There was an eccentric strangeness, a very unusual energy in that house, because we've been to a lot of other places, Oregon Vortex and others across the country, and even in the UK and everything. There was something very unique about being in there. And I don't know if it was like a confusion or some kind of, I want to say almost like a glamour of just being there. I kind of felt like I could easily imagine who and what was kind of like walking these halls. And it definitely had the stamp of almost like a mental illness.
Well, so that's, yeah. So my question is, Did you get any vibes? And you could get supernatural vibes. You could get vibes that like, oh, I feel a little uncomfortable, or there's bad energy here. Or it could be, I feel like I'm in a web of mental illness. That's another thing, right? Or I'm being watched, or things like that. Like, did you get any kind of feelings like that?
I think it was a little bit of a web of mental illness. It's not intimidating. I didn't think it was like negative. I didn't feel like a bad energy. I felt wonder, and it made me curious how and why this person went to these lengths, because it is, I mean, an 8-room farmhouse has gotten turned into like a 250-room sprawling spiral mansion of chaos.
Yeah, the vibe that I feel like I picked up on was just the weird energy that comes around abandonment. Because, you go in houses, and houses are meant to live in. There's these sort of like liminal spaces. And there is something when a house has been not lived in for a long time. It almost feels like it exists in a different plane or something. When a house feels lived in and warm, even if it's old, but you can just tell it has life in it, and it can feel sometimes good, sometimes bad. This felt like an absence to me.
Interesting.
And
I can see that.
The fact that, it's as old as it is, and nobody really lived there. She lived there by herself for 36 years or something like that. I mean, there was servants and construction workers and stuff, but no family members or anything. So it was not really lived in. It's an unsettling feeling, I'd say.
Yeah.
Do I think there were spirits flying around? I guess that depends on what you think spirits flying around are, because people interpret that differently. Some people can interpret that as just energy, which could just be imprinted experiences on the wall that somehow you pick up on in a way that we don't understand yet. Could it be a blue person floating around? Yeah, it could. Maybe that's what a ghost is to some people. If it is, I didn't see one of those.
Could it slime you?
Maybe I didn't see a sheet. See, if I saw a ghost, it would be a sheet ghost.
Because that's what you would want to see.
Well, yeah, it would be like a black and white sheet ghost, like Scooby-Doo kind of. That would be it. Or
you know what? For me, it would be, what do they call them? Like shadow creatures, kind of like the way Bram Stoker's shadow danced on the wall and kind of moves independently. Mm-hmm. That's what it would be for me.
And I think it could be a vibe, right? If there was an entity that was not among the living, it would be on a different plane. It could be on a different plane than us. So we might not perceive a physical form. It may not even have a physical form. It might just be where
it could be color, a flash,
passing creatures in the night.
Change.
Yeah. So, there is a vibe there. There is an energy there. Is it haunted? Who knows? I mean, there are a lot of people that say they've seen things there.
What do you think would be your favorite room in the house?
My favorite room in the house. Let me think about that. I usually like the dining rooms, but that wasn't the case in this one. There was a double dining room. You remember that?
The twin dining rooms, yeah.
Partially because I went to Hearst Castle the next day, and that dining room dwarfs any dining room ever.
Wow.
So I'm going to say that ballroom.
The ballroom is my favorite too.
The ballroom is my favorite. It's the most it's the most done room. It's the grandest room, I think.
I think that room brings me back in time the most successfully, because there's so many details. There's like the overstuffed Victorian couches. The floor is still very polished, and it is a dance floor. Mm-hmm. It's not a huge room, but you could see the Winchesters would entertain here. And when you were brought into their world, this is a place where you would have cocktails and stand underneath all of that stained glass, which is still there. And it was like a time warp.
It was beautiful. And as far as other similarly enchanting rooms, I mean, I think the stairwell, there was a stairwell that went up from I think floor 2 to 3 or something. That
the split.
There was a stained glass, and it just, I loved the look of it. It was giving Haunted Mansion.
For real.
Disney Haunted Mansion ride, but the real thing. Yeah.
Yeah. You want to know one of my favorite moments was we were on our way down to the basement, which was its own experience. Because when I tell you they have a gigantic Freddy Krueger incinerator down there that heats and powers the house, just imagine. But going toward that wing, I picked up on some, you could see through several almost layers of the house, because there was lots of windows. And then I saw chicken wire. So I asked one of the NPCs that were standing in the corner, and I was like, was there an aviary in this house? And apparently Sarah Winchester had parrots and all kinds of exotic birds that like roamed through several rooms in the house. And you could still see like the droppings and the cedar chips or whatever it is on the floor. What an eccentric lady. Like imagine being one of those workers and you're coming to work for this lady who never stops building, and she's got like twin dining rooms and staircases that go into walls and wild birds like flying all over the place. I mean, what a scene.
Imagine owning 100-year-old house and never cleaning it out. That sounds disgusting. I'm glad I didn't look around in there. What? There was stuff in, I mean, okay. We'll talk about that later because that needs So, what do you think about the seances? This is a big topic of discussion around the Winchester Mystery House. What do you think about the idea of seances there?
Well, I think it's fabulous. And I think spiritualism was such a huge movement back then. And that belief that the spirit went on and somehow through a medium, usually they could communicate with you, reveal secrets, give you an insight into the ultimate questions of life. And I thought that to see where that took place and became such a kind of an important thing in the house history, really cool. Do I think they actually were talking to spirits? Probably not.
You don't?
I don't think so.
Interesting. So, the idea of spiritualists back then, they inspired a lot of strange activity. They're, like mini cults all over the world, it seems like. And I've heard and read about tons of stories about crazy things that people got into by following these spiritualists. But in a way, what do you think of the idea of spiritualists as entertainment?
I love it.
Do you think it's a bit of that? I mean, was she just having fun?
I kind of think on some level, I have to imagine if I was a woman back at that time period and tragedy struck my family and I inherited this huge fortune and maybe I had some strange beliefs, I could go down that K-hole. I could imagine becoming that woman. Now, did she sort of lean in? Was all of a sudden like she has like this sprawling piece of like interesting architecture and people were interested in her or interested in the house and then it became like an entertainment kind of situation? I could see that.
But the thing is, she built this house and continued to build it based off of the idea that someone told her she needs to build this house, the sprawling house, and never stop building it so that she can make a place for all the people that died from the use of the guns that built her fortune. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to do something like that, you got to kind of believe in it in some way.
Yeah.
And then I guess that takes us to our next question, which is, are we talking about mental illness here, or are we talking about someone who is sensitive to a potential different realm?
I mean, and those things could be described the same way.
I've heard people say that before.
They could be the same. I like to walk in the middle of the road. So I want to say that Sarah Winchester may have been sensitive, and who knows, there could have been a curse on her name and her family for what they put into the world and how she was cursed to sort of take care of the afterworld. But maybe, I've been around people that someone can say something and then they take it so to heart, it actually affects their behavior, like what they do next. Mm-hmm. Or it could be like an insecurity and other things too. Whoever told her, girl, you can't stop building the house or the ghosts are going to get you. You got to do it right and you can never stop. I mean, wow, they spun her life into a completely different trajectory.
I wonder if that person read about it like 14 years later after she told her that and was like, oh my God. That lady is still, she really believed what I said.
Right.
She's still building that house. We could have told her anything. We could have told her, you have to funnel a certain amount of money to me every year or the spirits will never leave you alone.
Yeah.
Or leave it at the grave of this gunman. And,
But she'd have no way to know that, but wow.
I don't know. She probably read about it in the paper. I mean, I can't imagine back then too many people building a house and never stopping.
No, what I mean is like when she said it, she had no way to know. Like, girl, she'll still be doing this for 30 years.
She should have went back and knocked on her house and been like, The spirits have told me things have changed. I can see you're a dedicated servant, and now the rules are changing.
Yeah.
Just go to the bank and give me all the money that you are going to use to finish the house, and I will make sure it goes to the right place.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. And so you even when we were in the seance room, you didn't necessarily feel anything then.
No, and I was very unimpressed with the seance room.
I was very disappointed in the seance room.
When you picture seance room, you're like, the room's going to have power and it's going to have scale. And I didn't feel either of those. It felt small. I mean, that could actually add to the horror if there really was any kind of supernatural goings on there. I think it would perfectly fit 6 people at maybe like a 6 to 8 foot table, and there would be enough rooms to like move your chairs out, but not much more.
It felt like a mud room or something. Like it felt like I don't know, but you know what? I wonder, we came in it from the back, right? But wasn't there a kind of secret entrance that came to it from a closet or something?
I don't know if that was the seance room, but that was like one of my favorite features of the house. There was like basically a dead end, but then you open the closet and it wasn't like a closet door like we picture them. It's kind of like a built-in and it's split. So there's drawers at the bottom, but the upper half pulls out and opens, and then you can walk through the wall and into the next room.
That's where it went. It went to the seance room. So maybe it was more of a hidden thing.
That's where she hid her friends to like jump out and like rattle shit and like scare her seance girls.
You know, a lot of houses like that, there are in the walls you used to could walk through them.
Oh, it's so
you know?
cool. Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe. I mean, It has to be an interesting kind of person that would live by themselves for that long in a house that big and do that. So I got to think she probably believed most of this.
That would be maybe the scariest part. Like imagine living there alone for so long.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So she lived there almost 40 years alone. I mean, think about the time period.
Yeah.
Now, it did have electricity. It was one of the only houses in the country, I think, that had electricity at the time, but nothing else. So what do you think it would have been like living there?
It would have been cold. I mean, they had so many little fireplaces at like every turn and then that giant furnace downstairs. But that period is very drafty. And I think super intimidating. There's so many shadows and things you can't see in that house. Like something could be really close to you and you would not know it until it's kind of on top of you.
Yeah. One thing that's interesting is I notice a lot of times when older people, especially when it's a single person, and this happens a lot, or it has happened a lot in history, a single person will end up living in a house by themselves, a giant house, a Victorian house or something. And a lot of times, as they get older, they reduce the size of the house, meaning they sort of start to just close off in a couple of rooms. Like they put their bedroom in the living room and they go to the kitchen and the bathroom and that's it. It's like they just float between those and then close off the rest of the house. So who knows? Maybe that's what she did.
I know you're right, but that as a concept I find so creepy. Mm-hmm. It's like you're rearranging your home as you get closer and closer to death.
Right. Well, that was the thing. You remember that house in it was a Blacksburg, I forget, in Virginia that we actually considered buying that time.
Oh, right.
That similar story happened with that house too, where nobody had been living upstairs for a very long time. So I don't know. It happens a lot. So maybe she just lived portions of that. But again, I feel like that invites in weird energy. An empty house that's that debaucherously decorated, just sitting there. Interesting.
Very.
All right. So I would say in closing, whether the house was haunted or not, it depends entirely on what you think a haunting is, right? Sure. Yeah. And I think, if you're looking for ghosts, you may or may not find them there. But if you're looking for atmosphere, grief, obsession, or architecture that unsettles you, it is undeniably alive and well there.
And if you have a love for Victorian anything, it's a must go see. I mean, everything from the wall treatments, the hinges, all of the details, cutlery, plates, the teacups, the rugs, tapestries. Like there's just so much to look at. And something that you learn while you're there is that Sarah Winchester, in preparation to consistently be building forever, sort of stockpiled a bunch of materials like buttresses and wall prints and paper and just so many different ways to decorate. And they're still just collecting dust in the house, never to really be used.
I think that's typical. I mean, look at all this. We have tons of materials and stuff. And actually I was like, oh, I'm going to throw all this stuff away. But then as I work on the house and look at different stuff, I'm like, this piece of wood costs a lot of money. I'm not throwing this away. I guess that's how you start building your collection.
I guess so. We have our mini Sarah Winchester pile right here behind me.
All right, everybody, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to answer all of your listener questions. Stay tuned.
All right, uglies, we have returned, and it's time for listener mail. Our first mail comes from Monica from Vegas. My daughter and I were just wondering if you're going to add any more dates to the tour. I just wanted to know before I purchase our tickets to the Tucson show.
I don't think so. I don't know if there's been any talk of it. I think we're talking about an international leg, but I don't think any more U.S. dates are going to be added. Something may have to shift around because we got some news today about some network responsibilities. But hopefully it won't be too disruptive.
Yeah, hopefully it won't be too disruptive. But we can pull it off. So get those Tucson tickets now.
Nick asks, I've heard you talk about Absolute Wonder Woman and wanted to know if you had read and had any thoughts on the Absolute Batman series. The most recent issue came out and the redesign of Poison Ivy. My immediate thought was that this could have been something that could have been on the Dragula stage. The way the Batman villains and Batman himself have been twisted is straight out of nightmares. I have not read any of the other Absolute comics. I only read an Absolute Batman because there was a crossover with Wonder Woman. It was the first crossover. Mm-hmm. And I saw what they did with him. It's kind of interesting. He isn't a wealthy heir. He's sort of like a working class guy. I think that's interesting. He has like this weird bat sledgehammer or something. I did see the Poison Ivy redesign. It's pretty brilliant. What do you think?
It's wild. I mean, what a body horror. It's cool.
I like it.
Yeah, I applaud this Absolute series. And comics always do this, whether it's 52 or there's like a million things where they like, it's an event. But this one is actually really great. I love the what if of it all.
I think it's going to stay around for a while because honestly, a lot of them are selling better than the main titles are. So it'll be interesting to see how they pivot.
People don't want the same stories told over and over again by characters that don't die and don't change.
How is it that these characters are more like themselves than the characters in the mainstream comics that don't change?
I mean, I literally just read the Absolute Wonder Woman like an hour ago, and it just continues to blow me out of the water. It's so well written. I love it.
Obviously, I am a huge fan of it because they brought back Priscilla Rich. Well, not brought back. They reintroduced her in this timeline and killed her as soon as they, and which this is, I love this character. I was so disappointed, but I love the writing so much that I'm like, I'm fine with it. I get it. Obviously, they're setting up Barbara Minerva to become the next Cheetah.
For
it's
sure.
Clear. Giganta, I'm loving. I love her in this.
Love her. Oh my God. I loved her back in the Super Friends and the Legion of Doom, but she is so good. Her body markings almost remind me of, oh my God, what was one of those characters? It's like, Medusa and Black Bolt. There's a,
oh, the Inhumans.
The Inhumans. There's a girl in like a yellow suit, and she has
Crystal.
She has those circular symbols. It's very reminiscent of what was on Giganta's legs.
You mean Crystal Maximoff, ex-wife of Quicksilver, who is the brother of the Scarlet Witch?
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, and they have a daughter named Luna.
I think I did know that.
Yeah, but she was part of the Avengers for a minute.
Interesting.
And she had an affair with the Black Knight.
Okay, that's enough. Next listener says, hi, this is Cooper from Austin, Texas, the Austin, Texas Bear Call, actually, and I loved hearing your review of The Traitors. I have to know, if any of your monsters were to be cast, who would you want to see on the show, and how well do you think they would do?
I'd want to pick somebody that has a personality that would translate well to a broader audience, because the people that watch Traitors typically, I mean, a lot of people watch Traitors, but it has to appeal to a very broad audience. So you'd have to keep that in mind. They probably wouldn't be in drag because Bob and Monet have both been on there. And I don't think Monet was in drag once on there. Or was she maybe in the first episode or something? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I'm not thinking about it in those terms, though. Like, which Dragula character would you like to see on the show? I mean, I guess in or out of drag.
I guess I'd want to pick. I think Majesty would obviously be interesting on a show like that.
The thought did come to my mind.
Yeah, I'm thinking about, let's say, from Titans to anybody on there. No. I don't know. Nobody sticks out to me. Does it you?
Yeah, there's a couple of that jump to my mind. Bitter Betty, just because I want a shit stirrer. And if you're not a shit stirrer, I want you to be really good at the game. And some ways that a lot of people get by for a really long time, and some can make it to the end, is kind of playing like you don't know what you're doing.
But she
you're
really
actually
doesn't know what she's doing.
Oh, no,
That's
I'm not
what
saying
I
Betty.
love about
No,
Betty.
Betty's just a shit starter. I'm like, I need someone to kick some shit up and get in people's faces, and that's Betty. But someone who can play like, I don't know what's going on, but actually be pulling the strings, Sigourney. I think Sigourney would do really well.
Well, if we go there, then Dahlia would be...
Oh, God.
Dahlia would win.
Dahlia would be great.
Right? Like, off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
Either that or get kicked off. Who knows?
But sometimes the goodies go really far, too, like the quiet goodies.
Yeah,
like,
I was so annoyed with last season, the people that won. I was like... You all are not good at this game. Like Dolores from Real Housewives of New Jersey, you are not good at this game. You sat there like a nothing and did not know what was going on the whole time. And you just accidentally won.
Even this season, Moira and the other one that I'm calling Kenny G because I can't even remember his name.
They don't have a clue.
Boring. And they make it to the end, and you can be too hot. If your character if you're too outspoken, you'll go home, and the people that are wallflowers can make it to the end.
Well, that's why they cut Dorinda's head off on episode 1 last season, because they were like, we know you're going to be trouble. Now I think they told the people this year, they're like, if Lisa Rinna comes on, you can't vote her off first. Like, I'm just telling you right now, you can't. Like, they must have told him something like that, because she would have been the first one you would go for.
Oh, production doesn't pull strings like that.
Of course not.
Ang from Connecticut writes, I'm applying to teach a class at my university about the history of drag in my syllabus. I have selfishly dedicated an entire class to discussing Dragula. My question is, what talking points do you think are most important when discussing Dragula with new audiences?
I would say to remind them that it's fun. It's fun. Like, I think that's a big element of drag that gets forgotten. You can't come in there with like queer theory and the history and someone threw a brick and this. You can't do all that. Nobody wants to hear that. They just don't. Like, is history important? Yes. But you have to make history consumable, because it's only important if you can get people to read it and remember it. So I think make it fun. I think also talk about the genders of drag and the lack thereof, right? Because people get confused. A lot of times drag, people think that this is performing gender, but it's also open to all genders and all interpretations. So you could have a cis male who has a hyper king drag persona, and that's okay. So I think explaining those kind of things, that it's for everybody.
And that's evolving. And something else I think is kind of important, if you're looking at an on-ramp to this conversation, is like, where does living as a queer person, like an other person, meet with the world of horror? Because that is kind of like one of the foundations that the whole show is like built on. And there is a lot of interchangeability there. And there are some, I'm going to be nice. There are some people in the horror community that kind of refuse to see that, but it's ignorant. I mean, queerness and horror have been intertwined forever.
Why is it? Because this is true. You've been to horror conventions. You know what I'm talking about. We're talking about the Vampirella fans out there. Why is it that the people who are homophobic are the most undesirables? Right? Am I right?
Oh, you're
right.
They
are the most...
You're being nice. I would have said it a different way.
I'm like, what's happening? I'm like, you don't have to worry. Like, you think someone's coming after you? Don't worry. You are fine. You're good.
Trust me.
You
are
You're
safe.
fine.
Yeah.
Anyways, was that Ang or Ange? She's from Connecticut. It could have been Ange.
Could have been Little Ange.
But I like Ang.
Not big. Like Ang Lee. I think that's how it's spelled.
It's possible too. All right.
She's trying to read me.
No, I was trying to see. I thought Ange, I don't know. Isaac from London. Or you could say Isaac from London. asks, so my question is about Interview with a Vampire. It's not Interview with a Vampire, Isaac. It's Interview with the Vampire. Anyways, I'm wondering, what's your take on Louis' eyes? I'm a big fan of the plot and find myself lost in the storytelling elements. However, I just can't get past the fact that nobody is commenting on the fact, it's another fact, that his eyes have quite literally changed from brown into creepy ice blue. Also, how's he getting a boner with such a lack of blood? Well, Isaac, good on you for getting me to say the word boner because I would not. And here we go. So does the eye color bother you?
It doesn't bother me. And I think people will come in and out of his life, and those details can be forgotten when there are so many other grand details like no gray hair, no sign of aging at all, accumulation of wealth. Like, you're 60, I knew you when you were 20, and you look exactly the same. The eye color never really crossed my mind.
Well, what do you think now that he's pointing out that it changed?
I thought his eyes were gold, and I guess maybe they started that way and turned icy blue. What I do remember is that everybody has sort of like a different one, and when they change, their eye color changes.
That I remember too.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, Isaac. We're going to have to look that up. And as far as the sexual thing, that's the thing with Anne Rice. That's something I've never been able to get around. And it's why Anne Rice is not my favorite genre of vampirism, because I find it to be bizarre that, you know, she says, yes, they're dead. Again, someone with their books is going to come flying out of left field. That's fine. Read me, gal, like whatever. But like, you know, they're dead. So you don't have blood pumping through your body.
Through your what? Your boner.
You don't have blood pumping through your body. So I don't think things like that would happen. So I don't get the sexual chemistry. I don't understand it. That's that. I think if you're going to enjoy Anne Rice, you have to have a suspension of disbelief. But she didn't write them as having sex, right? She just implied intimacy.
Yeah, there was a sensuality. I can't remember specifically if there was sex.
I don't think there was.
I'm not sure. Now we're going to get roasted because we can't even speak on this particular term.
Guess what, everybody? She did not say that they had sex.
The way that I picture it is that they have a much more acute and developed level of control over their body than we do. So the blood that they do consume, they can push it around. Maybe even make their heart beat.
You're making that up. You're making that up.
100%.
You never read that anywhere.
I didn't say I did.
So you just made it up. Why anybody could make something up.
That's after reading Anne Rice. Oh, and that's right. I read all of them. You read one of them. So after reading it,
master of all, right here. I read one book.
You read one book, and now you know everything.
One book when I was 16. I got this. Okay?
Exactly.
I don't know why they didn't hire me to host the after show. I should be the host of the Interview with a Vampire after show.
Isaiah too.
Anyways, I'm going to read the next question because Stephen from Brimfield, Massachusetts asks, I was wondering when you might have another guest speaker on your podcast. I really enjoyed the ones that had Rachel True and Rose McGowan from the earlier podcast days. I've actually been thinking about that recently, but I don't think it would replace the podcast. I think it would be an additional episode, and maybe just one of us would do it because, you know, I don't like having guests on the podcast as interview subjects because it sucks up the whole episode. And also, it's like whoever edits the podcast, it takes them like a million years because people, they go on and on. It's really just a different kind of podcast. I think it's a little bit more labor intensive than we'd like to do.
Yeah.
But it was a great way to test out potential guest judges.
No, it was. And it was also gratifying to see who would be willing to come on and just talk with us, because give us some of their time and let us share them with our fans.
Yeah, we had Poppy on, we had Rose McGowan on, we had Rachel True on, we had Dita Von Teese. Dita Von Teese was our first episode ever. Yeah, I think when we originally thought of the podcast, we were like, we're going to have an interview, we're going to have a Haunting of History, and then I realized the podcast was like 5 hours long an episode. I'm like, we're not doing any of that.
It's like its own full-time job.
Exactly.
That's all the time we have for this episode of Creatures of the Night. Thank you for joining us. There's a few things that you need to remember. If you want to come and see the spectacle, the grandeur, the glamour that is the Boulet Brothers Dragula Titan Season 2 tour, tickets are running out. I know the VIPs are running super low. If you want your tickets, get them now at dragulalive.com. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, and review our podcast. Is very, very important. Maybe one of the most important things in your life right now. And what else am I forgetting, Drac?
You don't know what you're doing. If you have any listener questions for
There
us,
you go.
make
Yeah,
sure
that's
you
it.
send them to creatures@bouletbrothersdragula.com, and we'll be sure to answer them on air. Do not ask them on the YouTube channel with a little rude remark at the end, because we will never read it, ever. Fuck her.
Also, there's going to be a cute little video from our trip to Winchester House, so look out for it on our socials. The Boulet Brothers Creatures of the Night is hosted and produced by Drac Morta and Swantula Boulet, with music by Neuron Spectre.